I noticed the quiet in the space between two distant sounds. That soft pause where nothing insists on existing. The room felt settled, like it had exhaled and decided to remain that way. I stayed inside that exhale. Foot rested lightly against the floor, not pressing down, just touching enough to feel grounded. The air moved gently across my arms, not cold, just present in its own quiet way. Outside a window closed, somewhere far below, a soft final motion. It didn't interrupt anything. It became part of the stillness. I realized how rarely I allowed moments to remain untouched, without trying to shape them into something more. This one didn't need shaping. It already knew how to exist. I leaned forward slightly, resting my hands together. They stayed relaxed, without instruction. There was nothing waiting on the other side of this moment. Nothing asking me to hurry. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt full in a way words never capture. Time continued around me, without asking to be followed. Breathing in, softness of simply being here. Breathing out, and nothing was lost. The night carried on without needing me to notice, but I noticed anyway. I let myself remain inside its gentle movement, not separate from it, not observing from a distance, but included, naturally, effortlessly. Somewhere beyond the walls, the world continued. And I continued with it, not chasing, not resisting, just present, inside the quiet unfolding of now. The night had already settled in. Long before I noticed it, there was no moment of arrival, just a quiet deepening of everything around me. The light outside the window dimmed slowly, without asking to be seen. I stayed with it. My shoulder softened against the back of the chair. Not from effort, just from letting go of something I hadn't realized I was holding. The room didn't shift, it didn't need to. Outside, leaves move gently in the dark, their sound barely reaching me, still enough to feel real. I didn't try to follow it, I let it exist without needing to understand. There was comfort in not knowing what came next.
Somewhere between one breath and another, I stopped expecting the moment to change, and it became easier to stay.
My fingers trace the edge of the table slowly, feeling the smooth surface beneath them. A simple contact, certain and immediate. I remembered how often I had rushed past moments like this, looking for something louder, something that would prove I was moving forward. But nothing here needed proofs. The quiet held its own shape, and I belonged inside it. Time moved without sound, without pressure, without asking to be noticed. I close my eyes. The quiet felt different tonight, not deeper, just closer. Like it had stepped forward slightly, without making a sound. I didn't move, I let it meet me.
My hand rested on my leg, fingers barely touching fabric. There was something reassuring in that contact, something immediate and true.
Outside, a faint reflection moved across the glass, then disappeared before it could be held. I didn't try to hold it, I let it belong to itself. The air around me stayed soft, carrying nothing I needed to release. There was nowhere else I needed to be.
Somewhere in the stillness, I stopped expecting something to begin.
And realized realized everything already had.
My breathing slow without instruction, each inhale arriving naturally, each exhale leaving without resistance. I lean back and let my weight settle.
The chair didn't question it, it accepted me completely. I remembered how often I had resisted moments like this, afraid they meant nothing was happening. But something was happening, something quiet and permanent. Time moved without edges, without asking to be seen. I closed my eyes briefly, not to disappear, just to feel the shape of being here. Was nothing to improve, nothing to escape, only this gentle presence, this calm continuation of existing. I let myself remain inside it, without needing to understand. The night stayed open around me, and I stayed open with it, not holding, not searching, just carried by something soul that had always been here. The air had the late softness, the kind that settles quietly on your skin. Nothing dramatic, nothing asking to be noticed, just a calm presence already there. I shifted slightly in my seat, felt the fabric move with me, not resisting, not holding me in place. Outside, the world continued at its own pace, a distant engine fading into nothing. It didn't leave silence behind, it revealed it. I rested my hands together, not to hold on, just to feel their warmth. There was comfort in that simple contact. Somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to move faster than the moment, and the moment welcomed me back. The light from outside stretched gently across the wall, changing shape without effort, watch it without thinking about time. There was nothing I needed to finish, nothing waiting for my attention. steady, carry me forward without instruction. I let it happen, breathing in. I felt the space around me open, breathing out, and everything stayed whole. I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. I was already inside the calm I had been searching for. It wasn't somewhere else, it was here, in the softness of this moment, in the quiet acceptance of being present. I let my shoulders relax completely. Nothing needed to be held up anymore. The night moved forward gently, and I moved with it. Not chasing, not resisting, just carried by the quiet rhythm of simply being here. The room had the familiar stillness again. Not empty, just resting in itself. I noticed it the way you notice your breathing, only after it's already been there. I let it remain untouched. My hand resting near the edge of the table, fingers relaxed, slightly open. There was nothing hold, nothing slipping away. Outside, the night moves slowly, a distant light passing across the window, then dissolving into darkness. I didn't fall in, I stayed here. There was comfort in no needing to move forward yet. Somewhere, somewhere in the quiet, I realized I wasn't behind anything. I was exactly where I had arrived. The air felt gentle against my face, carrying no urgency. I leaned back slightly, letting my weight settle naturally. Nothing resisted me, nothing asked for change. I remembered how often I filled silence with noise, afraid of what stillness might reveal. the quiet that had always been enough. Touching my skin, then continuing forward. It didn't hesitate, it trusted me to remain. I leaned back and let my body settle fully. There was nothing to prepare for, nothing waiting to begin. Only this gentle continuation, only this quiet presence. Breathing in, I felt the calm deepen. Breathing out, and everything remained whole. All time passed without asking to be seen, without asking to be understood. I didn't need to follow it, I was already moving with it. My shoulders softened completely, no effort left in holding myself together. Only this quiet acceptance of being here. The night stayed open, and I stayed open with it. Not holding on, not letting go, just carried by the softness of now. already found its rhythm. Long before I became aware of it. A quiet pulse beneath everything, unseen, unforced. I let myself settle into it. My foot moved slightly against the floor, not to go anywhere, just to feel the contact. There was something grounded in that simple connection. Outside, a light flickered briefly across the wall, then vanished as if it had never arrived. I didn't question. Some things aren't meant to stay. They're meant to remind you you're here. I breathed in slowly, let the air fill space I hadn't noticed before. For a moment, nothing needed my attention, and that felt like peace. My shoulders relaxed deeper into the chair, supported without effort. The room accepted my weight completely. There was no resistance, no version of myself I needed to become. Only this quiet presence, only this calm continuation. The kind that doesn't ask questions, the kind that doesn't need answers. Breathing in, I felt time soften around me. Breathing out, and I softened with it. The silence carried its own quiet warmth, not empty, not lonely, just open. I let my thoughts pass without holding them. They move like distant reflections, appearing briefly, then dissolving without leaving anything behind. I stayed where I was, not waiting, not searching, just existing, fully inside this moment. The night continued its gentle unfolding, and I continued with it. Not separate, not ahead, just carried by something that had always been here. The room had gone quiet without me noticing when. Not suddenly, just gently, like light fading from a wall. I sat there long enough to feel it settle, for my attention. Nothing needed to. Breathing out, and I remained inside it. The last light of evening rested on the floor. Not bright, just enough to remind me it had been here all along. I didn't turn anything on. I let the home stay in that soft in between. Sleeve brushed against the side of the chair, the quiet sound of fabric returning to stillness. I noticed it more than usual. Outside, someone walked past without looking up. Their footsteps steady, unhurried. I wondered how many moments like this had passed me before, without leaving anything behind. I rested my hand against my arm, felt the warmth still there, proof that I hadn't disappeared inside the quiet. Somewhere between movement and rest, was my fate, then continued on. I didn't need it to stay. There was comfort in letting things belong to themselves. I leaned back slowly, letting my weight settle without effort. Nothing resisted me, nothing asked for explanation. Breathing in, the morning widened. Breathing out, and I widened with it. The light faded a little more, not leaving, just becoming part of something deeper. I stayed inside that change, no urgency, no direction to follow. Only this quiet unfolding, only this gentle permission to exist exactly here. I didn't need to hold the moment still, it held me without trying. Somewhere beyond the walls, time continued, and I continued with it, not chasing, unwinding, just carried by the softness of being here without needing more. The air had settled into something softer, like the day had finally started. Nothing announced the change, it simply happened around me. I let myself notice it fully. My hand rested against the window, cool glass beneath my fingertips. I could feel the quiet outside, not as a sound, but as an absence of urgency. A distant light moved across the buildings, then disappeared into somewhere I didn't need to follow. I stayed where I was, there was peace in not needing to move with everything else, and letting the moment remain whole. expectation, only presence, only calm. I lean back and let my body soften completely. Nothing held me up except the quiet itself. Breathing in, I felt the night open around me. Breathing out, and I remained inside it. Time moved quietly through the space, not pulling me forward, not leaving me behind, just continuing. I let my thoughts pass without holding them. They dissolved into the same stillness that held everything else. There was nothing to search for, nothing missing, only this gentle continuation of being here. The night stayed open, and I stayed open with it. Not holding, not reaching, just resting inside the calm that had always been enough. The quiet arrived without crossing a line. It simply replaced what had been there before. I noticed it in the way the room felt wider, like something had gently stepped back. I stayed inside that space. My hand rested against the fabric of my sleeve, feeling the faint warmth that hadn't left yet. Outside, the night continued without asking to be seen. A distant glow passing across the window, then fading into somewhere beyond reach. I didn't need to follow it. There was comfort in letting things remain incomplete, and letting the moment exist without definition. I leaned back slowly, letting my weight settle fully. Nothing resisted me. Somewhere between breath and stillness, I realized nothing was asking me to move, and I didn't need to.
The air carried a soft coolness across my face. Not cold, just enough to feel alive. It didn't stay long, it didn't need to. Some things are complete in passing. I closed my eyes briefly, not to disappear, just to feel quiet without distance. The room stayed exactly as it was, and that was enough.
Breathing in, I felt the moment deepen. Breathing out, and I remained inside it. Time moved without effort, without pressure, without asking to be noticed. I let myself move with it. Not forward, not back, just present. There was nothing missing here, nothing waiting to begin. Only this gentle continuation, only this quiet permission to exist. Stayed open around me, and I stayed open with it. Not holding on, not letting go, just resting inside the softness of simply being here. The night had that quiet glow again, not from light, but from the absence of movement. I could feel it in the way the room held itself. Nothing leaning forward, nothing falling away. I let myself remain there. My fingers rested against my arm, barely touching, just enough to feel warm. Outside, a distant window reflected something passing, a shape that didn't stay long enough to become memory. I didn't try to follow it. There was peace in letting things belong to their own path. I stayed inside my own stillness. The air moved gently through the open space, not asking to stay, not needing to leave. Somewhere between one breath and the next, I stopped needing the moment to change. And it became easier to stay inside it.
My shoulders
softened without effort. The choir supporting me completely. Nothing needed correction, nothing needed to be held together. I remembered how often I had mistaken stillness for emptiness, but this wasn't empty. It was full of quiet presence, full of calm continuation. I leaned back slightly, letting myself belong to the moment fully.
Breathing in, I felt the softness expand. Breathing out, and nothing was lost. Time moved around me without direction, without pressure. I didn't need to move faster, I didn't need to catch up. I was already part of it, already carried by it, already enough inside it. I let my thoughts dissolve into the quiet, leaving nothing behind but calm. The quiet came closer without moving, like it had always been waiting just beneath everything. I noticed it in the way my body felt lighter, not changed, just released from holding too much. I stayed there without question. My hand rested against the edge of the chair, feeling a steady presence beneath my fingers. It didn't shift, didn't need to. Outside, a faint glow passed slowly across the window and disappeared into somewhere I didn't need to see. I didn't follow it. There was comfort in letting moments pass without needing to keep them. I let my shoulders soften, let the weight of simply existing remain enough. Somewhere in the stillness, I realized I wasn't quiet presence. Only this calm continuation. Breathing in, I felt the moment open wider. Breathing out, and I remained inside it. Time passed without asking to be followed, without needing to be understood. I didn't need to move ahead of it. I didn't need to fall behind. I let myself remain exactly here, inside the softness of now, inside the quiet rhythm of being. The night stayed open around me, and I stayed open with it, not holding, not reaching, just carry gently by something that had always been enough. The air felt softer than it had a month ago. Not because anything changed, but because I stopped resisting it. The room didn't move. It simply allowed me to notice it. I stayed inside that permission. My hands rested quietly on my knees. No tension left in them. Outside, a distant light drifted across the window. Slow and quiet, like it belonged to another time. I watched it pass without needing it to stay. There was peace in letting things complete themselves, in letting the moment remain untouched. My breathing found its own rhythm, steady, certain. Somewhere between stillness and awareness, I realized nothing was missing. Nothing needed to arrive. The air carried a faint coolness across my skin, gentle enough to feel alive. I leaned back and let the quiet hold me. There was nothing to prepare for, nothing waiting on the other side of this moment. Only this calm continuation, only this quiet acceptance. The room stayed exactly as it was, and that was enough. Breathing in, I felt myself remain. Breathing out, and nothing left me behind. suddenly. Just slowly enough that I didn't notice when the air felt still but not empty, like it was holding something gentle. I stayed where I was. My hand rested against my arm, feeling the warmth that hadn't faded yet. Outside, the night carried distant motion, a soft passing sound, then nothing again. I didn't try to follow it. There was comfort in letting it belong to somewhere else. My shoulders lowered without effort, the quiet supporting me fully. Nothing asked me to move, nothing asked me to change. Somewhere between breath and stillness, I realized I was already inside the calm. I didn't need to search for it anymore. The air moved gently through the open space, touching and leaving without hesitation. It didn't need permission, it trusted the moment to complete itself. I leaned back and let myself belong to the silence. No resistance, no expectation, only presence, only now. Breathing in, the stillness stayed with me. Breathing out, and I stayed with it. Time passed quietly, without edges, without asking to be noticed. I didn't try to hold it, I let it carry me naturally. Nothing rushed, nothing delayed, just this gentle continuation, just this quiet unfolding. The night stayed open around me, and I stayed open with it. Not holding on, not letting go, just resting inside the softness of simply being here. There was a softness in the air I hadn't noticed before. Not new, just finally allowed to reach me. The room held itself without effort, nothing leaning toward or away. I stayed in that balance. My fingers rested light against the fabric of my sleeve, feeling the quiet warmth still there. Outside something moved through the night, a faint glow crossing the window, then dissolving before it could become familiar. I didn't try to follow it. Some things are complete just by passing through. My breathing slow, naturally, not forced, not guided, just present. Somewhere between one moment and the next, nothing isn't meaning anything more. And what remained was enough. The air carried a gentle coolness across my face, a reminder that everything was still in motion, even in stillness. I leaned back and let my weight settle fully. Nothing resisted me, nothing asked me to hold myself together. Only this quiet acceptance, only this calm continuation. The room stayed exactly as it was, and I stayed with it. Breathing in, I felt myself open slightly. Breathing out, and nothing closed. Time moved softly around me, without direction, without pressure. I didn't need to follow, I was already inside it, already carried by it, already part of its quiet unfolding. I let the moment remain untouched, let it exist exactly as it was. The night stayed open, the night stayed open.